This video tutorial is focusing on roles of a sports leader and follows on from the previous two video tutorials of qualities of a sports leader and characteristics for the unit leadership in sport. As you're watching this video and making notes, it's important for you to be aware of how you can show progress on this task related to the content that we go through. It's important that you make notes, and that from those notes and from what's said through the audio, you're able to provide descriptions of the roles for effective sports leaders, and produce those in your own words and use references where appropriate. And this is where you might go and look at other sports coaching or leadership based websites or even textbooks which are available in the learning centres. If we go down a little bit further, we're looking at expanding on that and being able to explain the roles of sports leaders through specific examples, and we've got to look at using a variety of examples here in order to lead us into what would be the harder task of analysing the roles of sports leaders as we look at the importance of each role, and I'll come towards that towards the end of the video tutorial. So throughout this video we'll be looking at the 8 roles which you can see listed here on the left hand side, and during the video I'll also be making reference to a number and a variety of different types of sports leaders in reference to the different roles, so we can start to look at not only the descriptive information but in order to get examples which are specific enough to explain. The first role that we'll look at is organiser. An organiser arranges and confirms and shares plans and actions which are often in preparation, so in advance of an activity for the activity time to be productive. Here we might look at physical educators or PE teachers or even sports coaches who prepare equipment beforehand and ensure that everything that is required for the session is there. It might also be during our coaching session, our physical activity sessions, in light of organising the team or groups, for example, pairing people in PE lessons, in having a stronger or a weaker participant paired together, or even grouping people together. For example, we might have a group of strikers grouped working together against a group of defenders, or we might be working specifically on certain types of positional play or certain types of play relative to the tactical demands of the sport. Possibly in sports coaching we'll look at head coaches, even PE teachers. The role of a motivator. So often motivators provide verbal and visual boosts in order to encourage people within their leadership sessions to complete tasks and activities. So this might be somebody who possibly has an outdoor activities instructor who's taking them through a water-based activity, or something like a hiking or rock climbing, where we've got to verbally motivate our participants to keep going if it's physically enduring. So it might be related to understanding of the physical needs, possibly through tiredness and mental fatigue, looking at the mental needs as well. Fitness instructors are always good motivators as examples, because we need to motivate our athletes or participants to continue going throughout the session, and particularly towards the end of the session. Team captains are usually good motivators, verbally encouraging teammates to continue. And we might even look in terms of typically motivators in the long term, motivating people in light of their goals and targets. So if a team captain is trying to verbally motivate participants and teammates to continue and keep up, maintain high standards in order to possibly win a match, or continue right through to the end of a season, which might be a long-term or a medium-term target of something within that season. Instructors are typically good communicators, and they command clearly in order to be firstly productive in organising people, and this might be in a physical fitness sense, it could be in a PE teaching sense, or very much in an outdoor activities sense, and particularly due to safety reasons, we might be very attentive to people's needs and link this with knowledge of rules and laws, where fitness instructors need to, or outdoor activities instructors need to give clear information for the safety benefit of people, and that might not necessarily be a good example of them showing patience, but it's probably an area which is more important than patience needed if it's a safety aspect. So to do this, an instructor would need to have an understanding of the requirement of the task, and also that they would use verbal and possibly non-verbal communication skills effectively. So we might have a very attentive instructor. And here, as we're going through these various roles, it's important for us to look not just at the type of leaders, but pick out people and give exact examples with specific detail to explain how that leader as a person has shown or used that role. A psychologist is the role which we can closely link with the understanding of the mental needs of the participants, and a psychologist would need to be able to utilize this understanding of each individual and the group's mental needs effectively as a leader. So this might be the understanding in terms of relating to and giving instructions to a young group in a PE lesson. So for example, a primary school PE teacher understanding the mental needs and really trying to motivate, possibly in short-term motivations, in order to impact the group in completing an activity, and might even be trying to engage them and motivate them to complete an activity leading up to a game, which is something fun which they'd like to do towards the end of the session. On the other hand, psychologists will certainly need to consider individual personalities, and this might be in the role of a team captain as a type of leader, trying to engage and motivate a range of their teammates in order to get the best out of them as individuals. And we can pick out certain examples there, certainly in terms of how team captains might show empathy and be attentive and console teammates when they've possibly gone through difficult situations, but how they will be discreet in that as well, and keep certain information from people that don't need to know. It's important that psychologists can impact the group, and that might well be looking at the cohesion amongst a group of teammates if it's a team captain, or even trying to keep that positive mentality in the group, which leads to success if we're a head coach. Further, in terms of if we're looking here at Trevor Bayliss coaching England cricket, the England cricket team's often away from home for long periods of time, so it might be a psychologist, sort of a counsellor role that a coach plays, possibly being that sounding board for players as people to talk to and express the feelings and concerns. So we could give specific information relating to a certain player who possibly, and we might speculate here, has approached Trevor and asked for a little bit of support in a certain area which is possibly affecting his game, which might be a personal issue or sport specific issue, and how we can get over that, possibly that mental block. And finally, important for their psychologists to be able to motivate people to meet the goals, which is pretty much what we mentioned here with Dave Rush, possibly linking to try and get success from a group of players or a team. A trainer is similar to an instructor in many ways, but in this light I'd like us to look a lot more along the lines of fitness instructors and strength and conditioning coaches. So typically we're looking at trainers as people that work within physical and health related fitness environments. So in doing this, they would plan, develop and monitor training programs for their athletes. So a fitness instructor, Johnny Sager, might set out 6 or 8 week training programs for clients, so he'd monitor those, and he'd do a whole host of things relative to that. So that might include carrying out health tests beforehand, measuring blood pressure and heart rate, taking height and weight, and possibly carrying out some basic fitness tests to get an understanding of the client's physical needs before carrying out any exercise. This might well be in a performance setting, or even a physical activity session, which is a circuit-based session. It's very much a case where trainers would need to have an awareness of nutrition and diet, as that would fall in line with any fitness training program which a trainer is trying to prescribe to an individual. So very much here we're looking at trainers being on the fitness instructor side, but there are elements of sports coach, particularly volunteer sports coaches or youth sports coaches would have a fitness training element to them, perhaps in pre-season, and within sessions they would ensure that they are physically demanding and challenging for participants where there's not a strength and conditioning coach at the club. Role model. We've come across role model before, and very much with role model we're looking at somebody who has a good public image and sets positive examples for the position of responsibility that they're in. So this is very much where we're looking at PE teachers, physical activity instructors, setting good examples in terms of how they act and interact appropriately with individuals and groups to set a harmonious and positive environment. They would probably be very welcoming and approachable and open to participants coming to them, and that would possibly provide the opportunity for them to be that psychologist, very much give teacher as a positive role, and really educate from that good example that they set, where people, particularly young people, would look to copy and imitate what they do. Team captain is also a very good example of a type of leader we could look at as a role model, as they should be certainly welcoming and approachable for teammates or younger players within a club, and how they act and interact with people in order to have their respect and show respect back to them, in order to lead effectively and appropriately. And again, we might look at a number of different types of leaders who are role models. For example, fitness instructors may physically look like they have a physique which is desired by a client, and that might link in with them obtaining business from different clients and members of the public in order to acquire their services as a fitness instructor and seek advice from them in order for them to then go on ahead and educate their clients. The role of a guardian. This is somebody who takes responsibility and due care for the participants whilst in their leadership. Typically someone who would take the role of a parent, so we might be looking at PE teachers or physical activity instructors of young people, or even sports coaches, and possibly instructors. This is typically somebody who ensures the safety of the participants first and foremost and looks after their well-being. It's certainly somebody who has an understanding of the physical and mental needs of the participants and is very much there to look after them and be attentive for their care. So we could pick out a number of different types of leaders who might have this role, and it's important how we look at how they apply that. A teacher is somebody who provides support in order to provide learning opportunities for groups and individuals. They might be referred to as an educator, so we could pick out a range of different leaders, sports coaches, PE teachers, etc. And we're looking at people who can demonstrate and do all of these things here, which help support people learn and understand what it is that we're actually trying to coach them or teach them. So if we're looking at this type of leader, it's important that we're specific with picking out who and what they actually do within the coaching session from these aspects for a particular skill in order to teach.